I think back to those days. Truthfully, I never want to experience it again. Like that was painful and it was difficult. But I also know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God met me there in a way that I had never experienced before. I experienced the presence of God in my life more powerfully during those difficult nights than I ever have before. And he refined me, like he challenged me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Refining Flame podcast, where we hear from Christian leaders who share stories of refinement through the work of the Holy Spirit in their life. I'm your host, as always, Ryan Shieh, and our guest today is the one and the only Josh Rutledge. Thanks for being here, Josh.
Man, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. You are a dear friend. I look up to you in a lot of ways, and I'm grateful for just the impact you've made on me. All that you're doing here on campus too. And so I know we're always grateful. And then aside from that, just your position in OSD softball, to give you guys a little shout out.
Let's go, man.
Which I need to get in. I would love to get in that next summer.
And you have been on a short list of people that I am tempted to throw on there because I know your prowess. One of these days, for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't go well for my squad this year.
There's 4 teams, right?
Yes.
4 teams?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, and this is not a brag point at all, but I know the championships in the softball stadium, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 200 feet is like
nothing.
Very doable.
Yeah.
I would love to play. That's all I'm going to say.
So we don't play every game there, but we do play the final there, and then you got to put it in the home run rule and whatnot. So by the time,
that's right. Yeah, there's a limit.
But for somebody like me, it's like I'm not gonna put it out of a normal base, like not even close.
Sure.
But you put me in that, and it makes me feel better about my own ability.
How far are the fences at Peachview?
More like 315, 350 kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to put a ride into
legit.
one. Yeah. I'm not getting
man.
it out there. You could do it, but
that would be so fun. You know, it's funny. I was talking with Dr. Gagouzian here in the tower.
Yeah.
And we were trying to get like a SOD pickleball tournament going.
Yeah.
I don't know if you play pickleball.
No, I don't.
But we would. I mean, I know Nick plays pickleball here. We're trying to get like a bracketology and all that. I think it'd be so fun.
Yeah.
So fun, man.
That's awesome.
Anyway, thanks for being here. We are highlighting stories of refinement through a lot of the leaders here at Liberty. And I know that you have some things that, you've experienced in your own life that maybe not everyone here knows about. I know you shared a little bit about it last semester at the Good Friday Convo. But aside from that, even some maybe the new freshmen or new listeners here on campus, Josh, how have you kind of seen God move in your life specifically? I know you have a wife, you got some kids. Yeah. And so tell us about that.
Yeah. Man, I mean, the way that I describe it to students is in my own life, I've fallen forward. There's so many things that you don't plan for and you don't like expect and go through. What I shared I think it was last Good Friday. I shared in Convocation this message of how my wife and I ended up adopting our 2 of our children. We have 4 children, but 2 of our children a couple years ago. But man, it came after this entire season of our own life of a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty. What I shared in that convo that day was sort of that sort of deepest path of suffering was just watching my dad pass away. So my dad passed away in 2019, and my dad was he was my best friend, full stop. Had an incredible relationship with my dad. So losing him was this deeply painful road. But as we're walking through that, my wife and I were also walking through what is God's plan for us as a family. We got married, thought we were going to have, we did what so many Liberty couples do. You
Unlimited
get married,
offspring in the Liberty bubble.
Right. You get married and you presume we'll have children in a couple years. And because that's what most people do. And so we got married, wait a couple years, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, this isn't happening in the way that we thought. Went to doctors. It was unexplained. That's what they diagnosed it as, like unexplained infertility, which is just their way of saying, I don't know why you can't get pregnant. And that was a road that we walked for about 5 years, where one of the most challenging, roads that certainly in our own marriage we had ever walked, of just, man, like I thought we knew how this all was going to go. I thought we were going to, get married out of college, 25, 26, start having children. All of a sudden, like you're getting up. In our cases, like we were, 5 years in our marriage. It's like there's no children. And we always deeply wanted children.
But let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
Were you guys like trying all the teas and medicines and all that as you guys were dealing with this, or was it kind of?
Yeah, I mean, we did. Yeah, we did our own sort of. I mean, we researched and did and prayerfully sort of walked through that, and then just decided in that we weren't going to go the more like we weren't going to do like infertility treatments or things like that. And so yeah, we so then that's how we ended up getting into the adoption sort of process. We were going to we were looking at adoption, and so we got connected with an agency actually locally here in Lynchburg and started walking through that process. That's a wild road in and of itself. And had an experience where we thought we were about to get placed with a child, and then it was sort of in the 11th hour curveball, like, no, it didn't. So that in and of itself was a pretty sort of jarring thing to walk through. And so we had a failed adoption placement. And then out of nowhere, we ended up, it was truly just a miraculous gift. My wife got pregnant with our daughter, who is now about to be 8.
Come on.
And and that came out of nowhere, and we to this day are just like, man, thank you, God.
Yeah.
It was such a humbling thing for me, Ryan, too, because it taught me that, man, you just don't have control. Like, it's just such a mistake to think that you get to like control and time these things out or anything like that. It's like life is a gift, and your life is in the hands of a good and loving God who guides your steps, and it's on Him. And so He's the one who determines time and steps and like who's born, all these things. And so we were just sort of floored by God's grace to us and whatnot. But we still felt called to adopt. Like even after sort of the road of infertility ended because we had a biological child, we still felt called to adopt. But it was during that season, like I said earlier, that we were also walking through this really challenging road, where my dad was, and we knew like that he wasn't going to be alive much longer. And the week that I got the call to go home to be with my dad because we had called in hospice care, that was the week that the adoption agency called and said there was a birth mother who wanted to like meet with us. And I was not happy. Right. It felt so backwards. It felt like this tension of, come on, God, like we've been in the adoption process for years and you want this to be the week? Like there's something else. I'm in the middle of like this pain, this grief right here. This doesn't feel right. But I knew something in my own spirit of like, hey, don't just like brush that off. Like maybe God's actually like doing something that you don't see. So embrace the mystery of it. Don't just react in what you think is like right timing. So I told the agency on the phone, like, I'm a little busy right now. Like I'm not in town. I'm with my dad's like gonna be passed away in the week is our expectation. And he did. But I told him on the phone, I was like, we'll be back in town, I imagine, next week, and we can put it on the calendar. So literally 2 weeks after my dad passed away, I'm sitting across with my wife, this teenage birth mother who is walking her own road of just pain and suffering and challenging. And it ended up being the very means by which like God redeemed her story, like in some ways intersected our own pain with the joy of, life. But man, when I look back and I think back to those days, truthfully, I never want to experience it again. Like that was painful and it was difficult. But I also know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God met me there in a way that I had never experienced before. I experienced the presence of God in my life more powerfully during those difficult nights than I ever have before. And He refined me. Like He challenged me. And in moments of pain and suffering, there's only two directions to go, right? It's either the level up moment, right? It's either where God is inviting you more deeply into himself, or it's the moment where you're going to go, nah, I don't trust him. And I'm gonna go my own way, and I'm gonna turn from it. And that's the crazy thing about moments of refining, because if the risk of you rejecting isn't real, then there's also not the actual possibility of like accept. In other words, it's got to be a real risk, right? There's actual risk in it. Like you can't fake it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's like if you want to, I mean, you're an athlete. It's almost like
Former athlete.
if you want to win a championship, like you have to, like it never
It's all
comes
in.
about safely.
Yep.
Like you don't backdoor in. It's like we're gonna have to risk losing. Like it's gonna have to come at the risk of like great heart like ache and whatnot in order to like accomplish that. And it's the same, I think, in life. Like the moments that test your faith are also the moments that are the greatest moments of your triumph are also the moments that are the greatest risk of your own failure.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the like pinnacle moments. Think of Jesus in the garden, right? It's like the penultimate moment. Now is the hour come. Now will the Son of Man be glorified. But that's the moment of greatest temptation, and that's where like all the chips are on the table. The moment of greatest glory is also the potential of the moment of the greatest like loss and failure, because otherwise it wouldn't be like, it's not a truly significant moment. So
and I think that's the challenge. Is like I actually have to trust God.
Yeah,
Right?
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
you're putting all the chips
Yeah.
on the table, and I think of the prayer, Lord, help my unbelief. You're almost asking him to change something about you that you're constantly wrestling with. Constantly wrestling with.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to all this later, but I know, I mean, just here up front, I mean, to think about, I think about all the college students here, and because I graduated assistant with Dr. Wheeler. I don't know if you knew that, but I read all the papers, I see all the stuff, and I know that a lot of our listeners probably are just like, they're sitting in that season of like, we're not having the child, and there's no hope in front of us. Like we have no idea when the call's coming, or like when we're gonna get pregnant. And for in their instance, it's like, I never know if I'm gonna find a friend, or if where am I gonna go after I graduate, or like, am I gonna find that person that I'm gonna ring up at some point? Yeah. And so, I mean, what are you and your wife thinking those first couple of years where it's like there's really nothing for us to do? Yeah. What do you process in that moment?
Yeah. It's a moment that it's a trust moment. It's a moment where you look at it and go, do I trust that God wills my good or not? And so you have to like reevaluate the possibility that maybe God has a different plan for your life than you expected for yourself. And what makes it really hard is when the plans you have are good plans, meaning like it's not a sinful desire. It's the opposite. It's like, God, this is a good thing. Like you're the one who created it, all those. In our case, it's like, man, you're looking around, especially in our case, you're looking around at a culture where it's like, man, there's so many people in our own culture. It's like they don't want children.
Right. And it seems like the wrong people almost
for sure
are like either getting married or having children. It's like, why me? Why am I the only one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's impossible not to play the like comparison game and then start to let that get in your head of like, God, why are you doing that? Like, why is that coming so easy for them? And we're gonna have to sort of do this. So yeah, man, but it's funny until you get to that place where you're willing to let God write the story, where you're willing to trust God with yourself and your own outcome in your own future, right? Unless you're willing to trust that, right? Then you'll always stay. You're always going to stay in the dugout. You're always going to like stay and try to play it safe and those sort of things. So again, it's all ultimately God's way of trying to invite you to trust that He has a better outcome than the one that you imagined, especially if it's not the one that you ever intended.
That's good. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you ever like question God's character over the span of that 5 years? And then what did you do to get back to what you know to be true?
For me, I never questioned God, but I questioned myself. And what I mean by that was this was my fear. It wasn't that I questioned whether God was real or that he was who he said he was, but I questioned whether or not I was actually what I thought. Like, does he actually love me? Like, have I done something wrong? My struggles with doubt have never been. It's like I don't doubt God. I just doubt whether or not I'm reading the story real. That it's like, is this real for me, or have I like fooled myself into thinking like, you know, this is good. I'm in God's will and I'm walking with Him and whatnot. Like that was always, I guess, my fear of like maybe I did something
Sure, yeah.
back then, and maybe I'm just way off. And it's not that God isn't real; it's that He's going, who? You've created this entire like artificial narrative. You think you know me? Like it's more of like self doubt
Yeah.
than it is like God doubt.
Yeah. So then, I assume you didn't just sit in that self doubt.
Yeah.
So how did at what point do you look at your circumstance and then you look at God, and then ultimately you look at yourself?
Yeah.
And you think like, God's willing my good, even when I don't feel it or think it or see it.
Yeah.
Like how do you get to that place?
Yeah. There's a I mean, it's going to sound like a cliche, but it's like I decide to bank on God, and I take it to God, including my own self-doubt. There's this prayer in my, if you go to my office here at Liberty, there's a prayer that I have on my bookshelf, and it's a prayer by the late Thomas Merton, and he says, "My Lord God, I have no idea where I'm going. I do not see the road ahead of me, nor can I know for certain where it will end. Nor do I really know myself, and just because I think I am following your will does not mean I'm actually doing so. But I believe the desire to please you does in fact please you, and I hope I have this desire in all that I'm doing. And I know if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always. Though I may seem to be lost in the shadow of death, I will not fear, for you are always with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone." So it's not some sort of like self-righteous confidence. It's like actually going, hey, God, I might be off. I might be wandering, but I think I'm in your will. And so what I did with it was actually just like go to God with that and say, hey, God, even if I'm off, like, man, cut through this, like, find me. Yeah. And I think the beauty of that prayer to me has always been like that line there in the middle, like, I believe the desire to please you does in fact please you. Like, even if God is actually looking at me and like, what's he doing? Like, where's he going? Like, why are you going over there? Like, he's confused, right? God's not confused. So I guess I took that, and it's not a profound thought. It's just I took it and I tried to like pray that, like bring my doubt, bring my like fear, bring the insecurity in prayer to God. It's messy. It's not like some nice, pretty thing.
Sure.
But that was the only route.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm kind of on the backside of not anything near as crazy as yours, but kind of just a confusing season. And I remember like obviously I'm sure you can relate. It's like some nights it's like, this is the worst thing ever. Yeah, other nights you're like totally fine.
Totally.
But I remember like my prayer the last couple of months has been just like, Lord, please sustain me today.
Right.
Because I think the hard part for me was like, what am I going to do out there, 5 months down the road? And because you're always thinking about like what's next and like where you're going to go, where you're going to be. And like I had to realize very quickly, like I can't control any of this.
Right, totally.
As far out as I want to go, like at the end of the day, if I'm worried about 5 months from now, not only am I missing out on today by itself, but also like I'm missing out on present strength, from the Father. Yeah. And so I can relate to that completely. Let me ask you this too, because I think these kind of seasons, first of all, are not uncommon. Everyone's going through a valley.
For sure.
But what I know to be true is that there are a lot of stories that don't end with the fairy tale ending of like, God gave us both. Like we had the adoption children, we had the real children, and it's like our family is awesome now. Yeah. I mean, there's some stories where it's like, they're 50, 60 years old. It's like we've never seen what we thought would happen or the move that God particularly could have made that we wanted him to make, Yep. And so I guess what is the grasp on hope? What is the holding thing that you're grabbing onto? Because I think at some point you can't really bank on circumstance, because that's always up in the air.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So what's the foundation of this trust?
Yeah, I prayed for God to give us a child, and 5 years later, he answered that prayer and gave us a child. I prayed for God to heal my dad, and he didn't. Like, so two outcomes. One of them, like, you get what you want. One of them, like, didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? When God's will aligns with your will, meaning like when I want this and then God gives it to me, so I guess you could argue, well, my will and his will are in alignment. Praise God. But there's not a ton of like opportunity in that to meaningfully demonstrate like what it means to walk by faith. The real measure of the Christian life is what are you going to do with the tension to where what you want and what God's will is are not in alignment. Now, when it comes to sin, that's easy. It's like what you want and what God, like it's not a
stay away.
it's like, hey man, he said it in his word. It's pretty black and white. Just obey, right? But I'm talking about where like a good thing intersects like all of a sudden with like, how can this be? That's my definition of suffering. And it can be, I mean, the thing about suffering is, you know, everybody has a story that could like trump your suffering and my suffering. Like if you try to like say like, oh, woe is me, there's always someone that's like, hey man, let me tell you what and you're like, oh my gosh,
Sure.
like who am I to talk? So like on some level, it's like, it's all a level. Like no one's like, you'll always, do not play the like victim card. There's always somebody whose story you'd go, well, gosh, God hasn't made me do that. Suffering is any situation where you are forced to say, not my will, but thine be done. That might be a very small thing. That might be a giant thing. But that tension is the moment of faith. So I would say like to the one who, the one who's saying is man, the prayer hasn't been answered. I didn't get like the fairy tale ending. It's not like there was ever any conclusion, like meaningful conclusion on this side of eternity to the story. Those are the very moments and stories that are how you exhibit and demonstrate faith that you're trusting the author of a better story with your life. Remembering, of course, that if it is for this life only that we have, peace, then we are of all men to be most pitied. If it's for this life only that we have hope, then Paul says in Romans 8, by this hope we are saved, right? Like the hope that this present groaning that we experience, right? Even as those who are Christians, he says, right? That this groaning we experience as being subject to a broken creation and whatnot. Like the hope of Christ to make right all things as he's promised, to take your suffering, to ensure that somehow in some miraculous way, your suffering is not actually going to be an eternal loss, but will be the very means by which you experience eternal gain, a la Jesus for the suffering and for, he endured the cross, despising its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the Father. Like that's going to be true for you and me too. That somehow the very thing that you surrendered to God, including like, man, the family that I wanted, the spouse that I wanted, the hopes that I wanted, the dreams that I might have had that didn't get to experience, that those were the very opportunities for you to bear your cross and offer it unto God. And the hope of eternity is that all things in that way become not your loss, but somehow in the mystery of God, your gain.
Yeah. I love that. I think what you just said is spot on. It's like ultimately the prize that we're looking for is Christ. Like
Exactly.
That's the prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I speak personally too. I just like you go through these seasons and it's like, I finally got what I wanted. Like I waited so long and I was so patient. But then once you have it, I think it's fair to evaluate. It's like, am I actually rejoicing because I got what I wanted? Or like, am I rejoicing because I've seen more of Jesus, in and through it.
Yeah.
But so often we kind of just like the suffering seasons, we take Jesus as like, I'm going to use you as a prayer card to get what I want.
Yeah.
But then it's like, after that, it's like, then what?
Yeah.
Like who do you hold on to after you get what you want?
Yeah. There's also, no, completely. And there's also something that like when you've suffered, when you've lost something that you can't get back, right? Meaning like, man, no matter how good it gets from this point on, it'll never be as good as it could have been because I can't recover that loss. like at some point in your life when that happens, and that happens to everyone, right? Where at some point it's like, oh, that can't be redeemed, right? Like, in my own case, I think of my dad, like, you'll never get to meet my kids, right? It's like, so, and I feel that. I still feel that. Like as good as every Christmas gets from here on out for me, like there's a thought in the back of my head of, man, like, man, I wish you could have seen it. Like, that sort of thing. But here's the thing about that. Like, that's not meant to be said as like, oh, like, it's more of like, once you feel like the cup has gotten smaller, meaning like the potential joy, you actually have a freedom there to go like, why was I trying to fill that one up anyways? Like, to your point, like, I'm gonna give it away. God, like, it's not worth it. Like, this life, like the best that it gets on this side of eternity is not worth it. Right? It's not like, I think it's good and right for a Christian to say like, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? If this is it, the best of life here, it's not good enough. Like, and so there's this opportunity when you've been hit, when you've taken a loss, to surrender it and go, I wasn't trying to build my house here anyways. Like, onward and upward. Like, I'm going to stay on my pilgrimage. I'm not going to pitch my tent short of the promised land, and the promised land is not on this side of eternity.
Yeah, no, that's good. That was something that honestly, that was something that carried me these last couple of months, and honestly, to give you credit, because you do that class with the RSs I snuck into, but that had formed me a lot, because at some point I had to realize that, like, as many doors as I want to kick open or pry open or force these things to happen, like, I had to quickly learn that I'm not in control as much as I think, and countercultural to what I've learned growing up. I mean, like I said, grew up as an athlete, so it's like, if you put in this, you will get this. 100%. Like, if you put this in, you will get this.
Right.
And so I mean, bringing that over to the faith, it's like, okay, if I do the right things and like if I be a good guy, like God kind of owes me this like life free of questioning and doubts, But then, I mean, you look at my life, people's life, your life, and it's like, your faith does not free you from suffering or questions or doubts or all the more, And so I think, it's very important that I see it in students all the time. Like I said, reading papers and just looking at testimonies where they're like, I had this and I had this and this happened to me. And like, and I don't want to, short range any of that suffering or abuse or any of that kind of stuff. But it's like, I can't see how God can be good through any of this,
Yeah.
Which is, for me, it's like, I don't know, man. That's a cross that you've been given.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes that many Christians make is we just forget that we're pilgrims. Like, if you forget that you're an alien, a stranger, which is how Peter defines the Christian life. You are strangers and aliens in this world, right? You don't belong here. We're on, and the picture of the Christian life is pilgrimage from bondage to sin toward glory with Christ forever in the new heavens and the new earth. But if you forget that, right, then all of a sudden you will try and put your hope on something that is short of the goal. But if you remember that you're a pilgrim, then you will not be surprised when you suffer. Like, I mean, because think about it. Think about like a pilgrim on the journey. Like, think about like the Oregon Trail. It's like, if you're on the Oregon Trail and you get hit by loss or attack and whatnot, you don't like it. Like, it hurts. It suffers. We lost this. We lost somebody on the road. But you're not surprised, right? Because you go, what do we expect? Like, we're not home. We're in the middle of like a pilgrimage on our way to this land, and that's worth all of this potential loss. If you're a Christian and you forget you're a pilgrim, right, then all of a sudden you're surprised when this tragedy occurs or this suffering occurs. Like, you haven't arrived. Peter says, since Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourself with that same intention. Right? In other words, like, that's the point. We're going on a pilgrimage. You're gonna take losses, but those losses don't. Now, if you think that is your destination, that is a crippling thing.
It's tricky.
That's true.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
If you think this is it and I've arrived, then those losses hit very different, because you go, this was as good as it was going to get. I thought I had arrived, and it's like, oh no, man, we got to go over that ridge. We got more places to go.
Absolutely, man. So let me play devil's advocate with you, because I know I'm sure you've seen this.
Sure.
There's some people where it's like, my life just stinks.
Sure.
And they've kind of almost settled at this place of peace where they'd be surprised if something good happened.
Yeah.
On the flip side.
Yeah.
And so I guess a practical for our listeners is like, is it right, quote unquote, to understand that you are a pilgrim here, obviously, but then like I don't think you should live in defeat of like, like life is going to hit me over and over and over again. Cause then you start suppressing your identity and like who you are. And like, you've been called to live in victory, you know? So how do you balance these kind of things?
Yeah. The person who's like, my life just stinks is, I'm not trying to like shortchange anyone who's, going through a rough season and whatnot. But the picture of the Christian pilgrim is not some downcast person who's just waddling through the wilderness going, woe is me. The picture of the Christian pilgrim is one who, for the joy set before them, is like head up, like heads up, spirits high, like all of a sudden, like, because of, I know where I was from and I know where I'm going. Joy is the greatest evidence of the person who's marked by God. I'll give you an example of that, Ryan. I got to meet one of my heroes in the faith a couple years ago, Johnny Erickson Tata. Johnny Erickson Tata, as a teenager, broke her neck, quadriplegic from a teenager. She's now in her 70s. So we're talking 50 plus years of being in a wheelchair as a quadriplegic.
Yeah. Hey, before you continue, I tell people the story that you've told all the time.
Oh, really?
This is one of my favorite Josh stories.
Gosh.
I love it.
Boom.
But they need to hear it too.
You're right. I tell it to a lot.
No, I think it's great.
So Johnny Erickson Tata, for 50 years, has endured suffering and pain that you and I, Ryan, would be like, I don't know what that's like. I mean, I can't imagine being quadriplegic for a day, much less 50 plus years of a daily waking up and just experiencing severe limitations in the body, right? And when I was about to we were going to do an interview with her, and I got to meet her, and her assistant told me, hey, you'll know. And so we were sitting in a room, like with her assistant, we were waiting on her for Johnny to arrive. And her assistant told me, you'll know that she's coming because she's going to be singing. She said she just sings her way through life. And she wheeled into that room, and it was like a joy that was just infectious rolled in. That is the evidence of somebody who, through pain and suffering, has been deeply shaped by Jesus. It's not this woe is me kind of attitude. It's this life. And why? Why would she say that? Because through her suffering, she's come to know Christ much more deeply than I do. And when you come to know Christ and you experience like the goodness of, it's what you were saying earlier, like if Christ really is your highest joy, if the psalmist is right, that in your presence is fullness of joy, in your right hand are pleasures evermore, then the closer you get to God, the more you realize, are you kidding me? Like I have it made. Like this is, I consider these temporary, like to Paul, I consider these temporary sufferings to be like nothing in comparison to what has been given to me. So to me, and by the way, the way to fight that, the weapon of our warfare against that spirit of pessimism and just perpetual victimhood and whatnot, the weapon of our warfare is gratitude. Fight discontentment, fight resentment, bitterness, complaining, grumbling. Fight it with gratitude. And gratitude's an act of faith. It's the ability to wake up and go, thank you, God, for the life that you have given me. Right? It's a choice to make of I'm gonna by faith go, even the worst that happens to me here is only going to be the very means by which he secures for me the eternal joy in his presence forevermore. That's why Johnny can sing. She's not singing because she enjoys being a quadriplegic. Yeah. She's singing because like she knows Christ. Yeah. And that's come through like, it cost me a lot, but I'd do it again, like she would say. If it meant like coming to know Christ. And I don't know. There's no shortcut, right? The shortcut is through, are you going to trust him when like you're facing your own cross?
Yeah. And I think the reality is, and you kind of just said this, is like, it's a black and white, it's a choice at the end of the day, you know, like you don't, I mean, there's only so many things you could do or go through where it's like, at some point you have to make decisions, say like, I'm choosing to trust God and through what I go through. I've heard it said like most of our problems in life aren't hard problems, they're perspective problems.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to Catherine Wolf a couple years ago at something. And I'm just like talking to her, I'm like, this is the most gracious person I've ever met in my life, as she's sitting in a wheelchair, you know. And I'm just thinking about so many people that I know, even, I mean, myself at times, where it's like we have it so much better than we think, but we attach a couple of circumstances to God's character and then think like, because my life's not good, God's probably not good either.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah, very
but
much.
Josh, as we kind of close here, I guess for the last question, college student, where it's like, man, I'm just sitting in this season of questioning and doubt and confusion, and I see no light at the end of the tunnel. Like there's no good in my life at all. You know, what's the basis of our hope as Christ followers and, as you said earlier, pilgrims going to heaven?
Yeah, Jesus was either telling the truth or he wasn't, right? He didn't say that it was going to be an easy road. He said it would be a narrow one. Few would find it. But if you're a student and you're going, man, this isn't it. Like this life isn't, like, my encouragement would be, man, bet on Jesus. Jesus didn't invite people to come follow him, right? And tell them that, man, if you'll just do X, Y, and then I'll prove it to you. It was just, man, just trust me. Right. So you don't have to have a bunch of answers. You don't have to like figure out all the, like, you don't have to dot every I and cross every T. To come to know Jesus is to go, I'm just going to bet on Jesus. That is, I'm more convinced now than I was when I was in college. But I still wake up and go like, man, I haven't arrived in some sort of like just place of just like blind certainty.
Yeah, sure.
I am not afraid. I told a friend not long ago who was going through a really hard time and was questioning a lot of things about their own faith and whatnot. And I said, man, I'm gonna ride with Jesus. And if Jesus is wrong, I'm gonna be wrong with him, right? But I'm gonna bet on that. I'm gonna bank my life on that. I'm gonna put all my hope on that. And I think Jesus would say, like, that was the invitation. I didn't ask you to get it figured out. I didn't ask you to like solve the problems, and like I never promised I was gonna clarify all the mystery for you or just explain everything really clearly to you. I told you, trust me, I'm telling the truth, and if you'll follow me, you will come to see it and experience it, and you'll realize, how could I have chosen anything different? What he was asking me to give up was nothing in comparison to what he was trying to afford and give to me. That requires faith, and faith gets expressed by me choosing to live my life as if that's true. And so I'd say, man, bet on that. Bank on it.
Yeah, unless the words of Peter, where else would we go?
Yeah.
You know, you kind of come to the end of your road.
Deeply true.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you,
I'm
Ryan.
grateful for you, and I mean, I've told you this many times, but to make sure everyone knows, you have made a huge impact on my formation, just my own faith and the way that, honestly, the way I teach other people. You've had a lot of
thanks,
impact
Ryan.
on me.
That's so kind of you to say.
For your friendship and your mentorship, and for you being with us.
Appreciate that.
So, yeah. All right, guys, we love y'all. We'll see you next week.